Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Brendan O'Brien Show. I am your host, Brendan O'Brien, as if you didn't know that already. And the one thing I want to get off the plate right away is that we're going to have Franco, Pacheco, Travis Claus, and so many more people coming. It's actually just them. I lied to you right there. But there's so much going on, and something is going to take a little bit of a leap forward from its usual place on the schedule. And that's because, as many of you know from listening to this show faithfully, the 15 to 20 on average that listen on a regular basis, the tens of people that listen to the OBT Show podcast on youtube.com/the OBT Show. Shout out to Chris Thurston. You know that in my heart of hearts, while I love sports, my true calling, my muse, my je ne sais quoi, is Marvel. And Marvel went ham tonight. Go look that up, because that's exactly what they did. They went ham with unleashing this incredible schedule of Marvel films that are going to be coming out very, very soon. And I always need to go back to the context for this, because the context for this is, as a kid, I never expected that we'd actually have this moment where movies and characters would be converging to create things that, if you had told me even 5 years ago that I thought that they were going to actually do some sort of storyline, that they were going to actually take these characters to film, I'd tell you you're nuts. But here's the lineup. I'm going to say all the movies, and then I'm going to circle back to a bit of discussion on them. And I'll also give you the dates. So plan your calendar. This week, just this morning in Los Angeles, Marvel announced that Captain America 3 Civil War hitting theaters May 6, 2016. Doctor Strange, November 4th, 2016. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 has been moved up to May 5th, 2017. Thor Ragnarok, as close as I can get to saying that appropriately, but basically Thor 3. Thank you. July 28th, 2017. Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, November 7th, 2017. Avengers Infinity War Part 1, May 4th, 2018. Captain Marvel, July 6th, 2018. Inhumans, November 2nd, 2018. And then we wrap up Phase 3 with Avengers Infinity War Part 2 in May 2019. Wow. Let's go back and take each one of these piece by piece. Captain America 3 Civil War, we expected that one. There was a lot of rumors that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be part of Captain America 3. There was no announcement yet or at this event about an Iron Man 4, so I believe it's safe to say that Avengers 3 may be the end point for Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Maybe Phase 3 wraps it up, but you will see a lot of Iron Man on Civil War, Captain America 3, which, for those of you not familiar, Civil War was a really well-received comic storyline in Marvel Universe, where there is a Superhuman Registration Act and requires all superheroes to register. And by registering, you have to give up your secret identity. Tony Stark, Iron Man, feels it's a good idea. Captain America, Steve Rogers, feels it's infringement on your rights. That's the Civil War divide. And whose side were you on was the catchphrase for that series, meaning, were you a Captain America guy or were you an Iron Man guy? So very exciting. How they get there, not quite sure. Kevin Feige, the mastermind behind all of this, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, said that while they'll pull elements and they'll certainly the comics will have an influence, it's not necessarily going to be the guidepost. So elements from the comic will make its way to the movies, but probably will have its own twist. Maybe end of Age of Ultron, with half the world destroyed and the Avengers destroyed, makes Stark think that everyone needs to be registered and protected more. Who knows? Then you have Doctor Strange, which Benedict Cumberbatch might be playing him. That's awesome. After Joaquin Phoenix decided no. There has not been a confirmed yet, but supposedly, according to Variety, he is in the final stages of negotiation. I'm all for it. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he's awesome. Sherlock, fun. Never seen The Hobbit. I only saw a video of him doing the motion capture for The Hobbit, and he's lying around and slithering like a snake. That's all I really need to see. I'd pay $8 for that. With all the motion sensing stuff on his face and his body. Why not? Then you have Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Take my money. No need said. You already saw the movie. Everybody saw the movie. It's going to be awesome. Then you have Thor 3, which, judging by the title, it is a reference, Ragnarok, to the end of days. It is in the Norse mythology, it is the apocalypse, if you will. And usually in the comic books, what this means is that they start throwing this word around. This means that Thor's going to die. So maybe Thor dies, and that's how they get rid of Hemsworth. And Thor always comes back, so don't worry. So maybe this is setting it up for the end of this first round of actors, and then you'll have a very much like a James Bond-esque, because that's the key to remember. Marvel said that very clearly. Kevin Feige said that. How come we can't be like James Bond? Nobody got upset when James Bond changed. You have some rumblings, but that's how that series endured. You had Sean Connery, then you had George Lazenby, Roger Moore. You pass the baton to the next action star or the next hero in this case. This might be how they do that. Then you have Black Panther, which is going to be awesome. You get into another element of the Marvel Universe, Wakanda, the African nation of Wakanda. There's a whole lot of storylines that can go with that one, but very excited to see that forefront. You have Avengers Infinity War Part 1, which this is all building. If you've been paying attention, you notice that Thanos is all about these Infinity Gems, and you've already seen them. And this is what's been confusing to some people who are not on top of their Marvel lore. In Avengers, when Loki touches you with his Loki stick and you become crazy, that is the Mind Gem. It's featured in Captain America, the First Avenger, what Red Skull wants. It's featured in Guardians of the Galaxy with Ronan the Accuser. He puts that on his staff. That is a gem. They haven't really come out and said this is what this gem does, but you can get an idea. Avengers Mind Gem, you could make the case that in Captain America 1 and Thor 1, it was the Space Gem because it kind of does go through time. And the Power Gem, I would go with Rowan the Accuser. Then we have a break. We have Captain Marvel, which is the female Captain Marvel. Captain Danvers, which is awesome. First female solo superhero film to come out of Marvel or DC. Then you have the Inhumans, which is getting into even more obscure Marvel lore. They are based off a substance called the Terrigen Mist that provides power. They are usually located underneath the ocean. They have also been located on the moon. I believe they are normally actually on the moon. They relocated to the ocean in one storyline, but they all have powers. They're as close as you're going to get to mutants if they do it the way that they were portrayed in the comics, that they could probably, Marvel can legally get to with Fox owning the Marvel rights. Then you end up with Avengers Infinity War Part 2, taking a cue from the Twilight series and Harry Potter, where you're ending your trilogy in 2 parts, essentially making 2 films and wringing out every last bit you can. And that's where it stops. So from here in 2014 all the way to 2019, we have movies to watch. DC has already announced their films. And if you haven't remembered, there's a little something called Star Wars. Star Wars is still on the table. Star Wars, while we know when the next one is coming, their rumored plan is to do a Star Wars every year for about 10 years. So you'll do Star Wars and then you'll do an offshoot. So, for example, let's say they decide Boba Fett gets a movie. So it'll be Star Wars 7, Boba Fett, Star Wars 8, Han Solo. I hear Franco on the other line. It's okay. Franco, what do you think about it? Just let's forget the music. Go right into Franco because I'm excited and hyped up. Franco, when you saw that, we'll talk fantasy. But when you heard about this Marvel lineup, were you excited? Were you overwhelmed? I was a bit of both.
I was kind of in between. I'm worried about the pillars of my childhood falling down.
Why do you say that? What's the fear?
I think the fear is that anything that's good, when you go back to it, it might not be that good again. Like when you have a piece of ice cream and it's a hot day and you ate half of it and you really liked it and you put it down on the table, you ran a couple laps on a block and you came back and the ice cream was melted.
I think that's where a little bit of my fear comes from because while I think the general public, and it's tough, and as I say this, I know Guardians of the Galaxy was phenomenal. In my opinion, I loved it. But now you're getting into trying to sell people on Inhumans, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel, which are not homegrown names. It's not like they're like, we're doing Iron Man, and you're like, oh, awesome, I get what Iron Man is. You're like, Inhumans, what the hell is